Could 10 open source tools actually kill your entire SaaS stack? Not just replace it, kill it. We're talking Intercom gone, Zapier gone, Notion gone, all running on one cheap server with AI baked in natively, no per-seat fees, no data leaving your machine. Here's the full ranked breakdown. Number 10, WebUI. This is the one you stand up first because it's the easiest win on the list. ChatGPT Enterprise charges you somewhere around $30 per user per month to give your team a chat box that doesn't train on your data. WebUI gives you the same chat box, self-hosted, for the cost of the API calls underneath it. Here's how it actually works. WebUI is just a front end. It's that familiar chat interface, the conversation history, the document upload, the whole thing, but it doesn't ship with a model. You point it at whatever you want behind the scenes. Plug in a local LLM through Ollama, and the inference runs entirely on your own box. Nothing leaves the building. Or wire it to an OpenAI-compatible endpoint and route to today's frontier models. Claude, GPT, Gemini, whichever's winning that week, swapped with one config change. You're not locked into anybody's chat product. You own the interface and you rent the brains. It does more than text, too. You can hook it into an image backend like Stable Diffusion and generate images right in the same window, so your team isn't paying for a separate art tool either. If you route to external APIs, your prompts still travel to OpenAI or Anthropic. The privacy pitch only fully holds if you also run the model locally through Ollama. And you eat the API bill yourself instead of a flat per-seat fee, which is cheaper for light users and can be pricier for heavy ones. But for a team that wants one shared, controllable assistant without $30 a head pricing, this is the no-brainer entry point. That's why it's number 10 and not lower. It's the gateway drug to the whole stack. Number 9, Plain. This one kills Jira and Linear. It's project management, issues, sprints, cycles, roadmaps, open source under AGPL, free to self-host. Cloud plans start around $8 a month if you don't want to run it, but the whole point here is you do. What makes Plain worth a spot is that it didn't try to clone Jira's 2 decades of menu bloat. It's clean, it's fast, and it covers the actual work. A backlog, a board, cycles for sprints, modules for bigger chunks of work. If your team has been hating Jira's load times, and most have, Plain feels like relief. It's the linear experience, but the data sits on your server instead of someone else's multi-tenant cloud. The trade-off is maturity. Jira has integrations for everything on Earth, and a permissions model built for 1,000-person orgs. Plain is younger, so if you need deep enterprise governance or some obscure third-party plugin, you might hit a wall. For a 5 to 50-person team, though, that wall is rarely a problem. You get the tracking you need, none of the per-seat tax, and a tool that loads before you lose your train of thought. Solid number 9. Number 8, AppFlowy. This is your Notion replacement, and it's the cleanest one-to-one swap on the list. Notion runs $8 a user on the Plus plan, $15 on Business. 10 people on Business is $150 a month forever for docs and databases. AppFlowy does the same job. Docs, wikis, Kanban boards, relational databases, and self-hosting it is free. The reason this matters beyond cost is where your notes live. With Notion, every document, every internal database, every half-finished strategy doc sits on Notion servers. AppFlowy puts all of that on your machine. For anybody handling client data or anything you'd rather not hand to a third party, that's the whole reason. It's racked up around 60,000 stars on GitHub, which, for a Notion clone, tells you the demand is real. Now the catch, and it's a recurring one across this whole list, so listen for it. AppFlowy started life under a permissive MIT license and moved to a dual AGPL and commercial setup as it grew. That's the open source landscape right now. Licenses that are wide open today can tighten tomorrow. We saw it with Terraform. So when you build on these tools, you're betting on the current license and the community around it, not a guarantee. For AppFlowy specifically, the self-host path is still free, and that's not changing soon. Just go in clear-eyed. Number 7, Khoj. This one's different. It's replacing Notion AI, the premium upsell, not the app itself. You know the pattern by now. The base tool is one price, and the AI features cost extra on top. Khoj ships the AI as the entire point, for free, under an AGPL license, with somewhere north of 35,000 GitHub stars. What Khoj actually is an AI second brain. You feed it your documents, your notes, your PDFs, and it indexes all of it so you can ask questions across everything you've ever saved and get real answers with sources, not a keyword search. It'll run automations and personal agents on top, things like watching for information and summarizing it back to you. Think of it as the research assistant that already read all your files. And like OpenWebUI, you can point it at a local model so the whole thing runs private. Here's the durable idea underneath this pick, and it's the real thesis of the video. SaaS companies are monetizing AI as a premium add-on. Notion AI, Intercom's Fin, all of them charging a surcharge for the smart features. Open source tools are shipping those same features for free, baked in at the application layer. That gap doesn't close as models get better, it widens, because every new capability becomes another paid tier on one side and a free commit on the other. Khoj is the clearest example of that on the list. Number 6, OpenObserve. This is the one that goes after Datadog, and Datadog is where SaaS bills go to become horror stories. Teams routinely wake up to five-figure observability invoices because the pricing scales with how much data you log, and modern apps log a lot. OpenObserve is an open-source observability platform. Logs, metrics, traces, the whole monitoring picture, and its headline pitch is brutal. The team claims up to 140 times lower cost than Datadog at scale. The way it pulls that off is storage. Traditional observability tools index everything aggressively, which is fast but eats enormous amounts of disk and compute, and you pay for all of it. OpenObserve is built around cheap object storage and a more efficient format, so the same volume of logs costs a fraction to keep. For a team drowning in monitoring costs, that's a different category of bill. The honest counter here is operational. Datadog is expensive partly because it's somebody else's job to keep it running, scaled, and patched. Self-host your observability, and that job is now yours. The very system you'd use to catch an outage is itself a thing that can go down. For a team with real DevOps muscle, that's fine, and the savings are enormous. For a two-person shop with no on-call, think hard before you self-host the thing that's supposed to wake you up. Number 5, 20. This is the Salesforce killer, and it earns the back half of this countdown because it isn't a parity play. Salesforce runs anywhere from $25 to $300+ per user per month, and the experience is famously heavy. 20 rebuilt the CRM from scratch as an AI-native product, and it's reached the top spot as the #1 open-source CRM on GitHub. A CRM is just where your customer relationships live. Contacts, companies, deals, the pipeline. What 20 is doing differently is publishing actual agentic AI case studies and Salesforce migration paths, meaning the AI isn't bolted on after the fact. It's part of how the thing is designed. The interface borrows the best of the modern tools, fast, keyboard-driven, clean, instead of Salesforce's decades of accumulated complexity. And it's all on your infrastructure, your customer data, no per-seat pricing that punishes you for adding a salesperson. The real question with any CRM swap is the ecosystem. Salesforce's moat was never the software. It was the 1,000 integrations and the army of consultants. 20 is young, so you're trading that ecosystem for control and cost. But for a team that wants its customer data sovereign and its CRM fast, and that doesn't need Salesforce's enterprise sprawl, this is an exciting number 5. The AI-native rebuild is the move, not the cleanup of a legacy tool. Number 4, Flowise. Now we're into the AI building tools, and this is where you have to pay attention, because the next two items look similar and they are not the same. Flowise is the visual one. People call it Zapier for AI. You drag nodes onto a canvas and wire them together to build a chat flow, an agent, or an evaluator without writing the orchestration code yourself. Around 35,000 stars on GitHub. Here's the concrete version. Say you want a chatbot that reads your company docs and answers questions. In Flowise, you drop a document loader node, a node for your vector store, a model node, pointed at Ollama for local or OpenAI for hosted, and a chat node. Connect the dots, and you've got a working retrieval bot. No glue code. For builders who think visually or want to prototype an AI flow in an afternoon, that canvas is the fastest path from idea to running thing. So when do you pick Flowise? When you want speed and visual clarity, when the job is a self-contained AI workflow, and when you'd rather see the flow than read it. The moment your logic gets complex, the canvas can turn into spaghetti, and you start wishing you had code. Keep that in mind because the next tool up handles complexity differently. Number 4, Flowise, the fast, visual way to ship an AI workflow. Number 3, Dify. This is the heavier sibling to Flowise, and the distinction is the whole reason both are on the list. Where Flowise is a visual canvas for wiring up a flow, Dify is a full LLM application development platform, Apache licensed, built to be the actual production layer your AI apps run on. It's the self-hosted answer to hosted builders like the OpenAI Assistance API or LangChain's Cloud. The difference in practice. Flowise gets you to a prototype fast. Dify is what you reach for when that prototype needs to become a real product. It handles the things production demands: prompt management, datasets for retrieval, model routing, observability into what your app is actually doing, and serving it all behind an API your other systems can call. And it integrates natively with N8N, which matters in a second when we get to number 1. So fork it cleanly. Pick Flowise when you want to sketch an AI workflow visually and ship something small quickly. Pick Dify when you're building an AI feature that real users will hit, and you need the management and serving layer underneath it. They're not competitors so much as two stops on the same road. Tech press like XDA has been documenting Dify paired with N8N and Ollama as a production-viable private stack. Your prompts, your documents, your workflow data, all staying inside your own infrastructure. That last part is the point. Number 2, Chatwoot. This is the one that takes down Intercom, and Intercom is one of the most expensive line items a small company carries. Plans start at $74 a month and climb past $374 for the higher tiers. And then Intercom's Fin AI agent charges you on top of that, per resolution, every time the bot closes a ticket. Chatwoot's self-hosted community edition is free, MIT licensed, and it now ships its own first-party AI. That AI is called Captain. It does auto-resolution and agent assist. The bot handles the routine tickets and helps your humans on the rest, which is exactly the job Finn does inside Intercom. The significance isn't just that Chatwoot copied the feature, it's that even open-source customer support tools now ship native AI instead of expecting you to bolt on your own. That's the table stakes shift this whole video is about, showing up in the most cost-sensitive category there is. 2 honest catches. First, capability. Intercom's Finn has a multi-year head start tuning its AI to its own product, and Intercom claims resolution rates in the 50 to 70% range. A self-hosted Captain may close the cost gap faster than it closes that quality gap, so test it on your real tickets before you rip Intercom out. Second, the open core reality. Chatwoot's most advanced AI tiers and some enterprise features, things like SLAs and audit logs, live in paid plans, and builders on GitHub have grumbled about exactly that. Self-hosting gets you the core for free. The fanciest bits may still cost. Even so, going from $300 a month plus per resolution fees down to a server you control is the kind of swing that funds a whole engineering hire. Strong number 2. Number 1, N8N. If one tool on this list earns the keystone spot, it's this one, because automation is the connective tissue that makes the other 9 behave like a single product instead of 10 separate apps. N8N is workflow automation, the open source answer to Zapier and Make. You build pipelines that say, when this happens, do that. A form comes in, create the CRM record, send the message, update the doc. Self-hosted, it runs with no per execution fees, which is the line that kills Zapier. That fee model is the whole story. Zapier and Make charge you per task or per operation, so the more your automation actually works, the more you pay. Success becomes a tax. In the N8N versus Make versus Zapier debate, the hosted 2 are smoother out of the box for non-technical users, and that's a fair reason to pick them. But self-hosted N8N flips the economics completely. You run as many executions as your server can handle, for the flat cost of the server. For anyone doing real volume, that gap isn't close. Where N8N becomes the centerpiece is AI. It integrates directly with Ollama, so your automations can call a local model with no data leaving the box. N8N even publishes a self-hosted AI starter kit, a one-command Docker setup that bundles N8N, Ollama, and a Qdrant vector database, and developers have used it to stand up fully local retrieval pipelines in a weekend. That's a real archetype now, the solo AI ops builder who replaces a $500 a month tool stack with a Docker Compose file. Wire N8N into Dify, into Chatwoot, into 20, and the 10 tools stop being a list and start being one nervous system. That's why it's AI automation that sits at number 1. So does the stack actually hold up? Mostly, yes, and here's the honest verdict to take with you. The case studies are real. Teams running Notion, Datadog, Zapier, and Airtable for a few hundred a month, rebuilt on a single $12 VPS. The durable truth underneath all 10 picks is that AI is now table stakes in open source tooling, while SaaS keeps selling it as a premium surcharge. So the cost gap between self-hosting and subscribing has permanently widened, and it widens further with every model wave. But it only pays off if you can run it. Docker, backups, SSL, security patches, uptime. That's the rent you pay instead of a subscription. And for a non-technical founder, a single data loss event can cost more than years of SaaS fees. So the real recommendation isn't rip everything out tomorrow. It's this. The skill to self-host an AI stack is now an asymmetric advantage, on cost and on data sovereignty, and it survives whatever model ships next. Start with one tool, open WebUI on a cheap server this weekend, and learn the muscle. Because the builders who own their stack stop renting their margins.